Hello and welcome back to the Boost Plant channel, where we cover everything aquascaping and we try and entertain and inspire you along the way. My name is Logan with Team Boost Plant, and today we have a super exciting video because we are talking about aquarium fish, shrimp, and snails. All the fun little critters and their tank mates that you'll be adding to your aquarium. But before we dive in, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for lots more great content like this. And I want to let you know that most of the fauna that we'll be discussing today, we do carry at boostplant.com with a 100% DOA policy. So if you're interested in picking up these critters for yourself, go ahead and check out boostplant.com or go ahead and check the links in the description. Now let's get started. Before we get into some of our favorite species, here are some basic guidelines that'll help you along the way when you're doing research and selecting the appropriate species for your tank. So number one, all fauna have recommended tank mates. So it's really important that you don't just go to the fish store, pick a bunch of random things that catch your eye and put them all together. You have to do your research and read up on which species work well together. Number two, just like humans, some fish are more friendly than others. For example, lots of schooling fish can be super peaceful, but then you've got the very popular cichlids, which can be more territorial and aggressive towards one another as well as other species. So it's absolutely vital that you do your research before selecting a fish and you design the tank as well as any potential tank mates around the fish's aggression level. Number three, some fish absolutely need to be kept in a school to feel at home and peaceful. There are a ton of fish in this hobby that we keep that are considered schooling or shoaling fish. And it's really vital that you don't just get like 1, 2, or 3 of those fish. Most guides will recommend a minimum of 6 of a schooling fish, but you'll see the most calm, peaceful, natural behavior if you can stock as many as your tank can carry. So once again, do your research, and if you're gonna purchase a schooling fish, get a minimum of 6. But if you can get more than that, you'll see some really beautiful natural behavior from those schooling fish. And finally, number 4, do your research. I'm gonna be reiterating that a ton in this video, but at Boost Plant, we really value the livelihood of the fish and the shrimp and the snails that we keep, and providing good conditions for those fish is really important. So once again, do not pair species that are incompatible, and find species that work together really harmoniously, because that's gonna make your aquarium all the more beautiful, peaceful, and enjoyable. Freshwater decorative shrimp are becoming more and more popular in this hobby. Nowadays, it's fairly common to see shrimp-only tanks that are beautifully aquascaped and feature vibrant and beautiful shrimp. But when you're diving into the world of ornamental shrimp, it's important to know that there are 2 different main kinds of shrimp. We have Caridina shrimp, which are fairly difficult to keep and require an advanced knowledge of water parameters and care. And then we have Neocaridina shrimp, which are far easier to keep and can get by with a variety of conditions, as well as relative fluctuations in water conditions. So if you're completely new to the world of shrimp, we highly recommend you start with the world of Neocaridina shrimp. Some of the most popular types of Neocaridina shrimp are the Blue Dream shrimp and the Fire Red Cherry shrimp. So these shrimps are actually the exact same genus and species, but they've been bred to express different colors. And with Neos, you can almost find them in every color of the rainbow. And these shrimp can tolerate a variety of water hardnesses and conditions and temperatures. But as with anything, it's important to do your research and to try your best to provide them with the optimal conditions that they've been bred for. And then next up, we have the more difficult to keep Caridina shrimp. Now, Caridina are so popular because of their visuals. They're arguably more complex and even more beautiful looking than Neocaridina shrimp, depending on your taste, but these are more difficult to keep because they require very stable, soft water conditions. And if you're using tap water, you may find that achieving the conditions that these shrimp really require to thrive could be impossible. So read up on exactly what these shrimp need and be willing to do the maintenance and observation to keep these shrimp and have them breeding and happy. But if you can get past that, they're really beautiful and just as rewarding as Neocaridina Caridina shrimp. And then finally, we have the oddball Amano shrimp. And these are actually a type of Caridina shrimp, but they don't really look like the Caridinas we've highlighted thus far, and they look very different than Neocaridinas as well. Amano shrimp are our #1 selling shrimp on boostplant.com, and that is most likely because they are excellent algae eaters. So out of all the bottom feeders we keep in the aquascaping hobby, Amano shrimp are quite possibly the most effective and the hardest workers. So check them out on boostplant.com. They're really interesting and a little bit of an oddball, but they will make short work of the algae in your tank. And one final tip when keeping decorative shrimp is to not mix the colors. So for example, if you decide to go with red cherry shrimp, it's not a great idea to mix them with blue dream shrimp because eventually they'll interbreed and they'll sort of create offspring that are more of a brown wild type hybrid. So eventually after multiple generations, you'll lose that beautiful decorative color. So pick a color you like and stick with just that variety. And now it's time to talk about freshwater fish. And when it comes to the aquascaping hobby, there are dozens and dozens, possibly even hundreds of different species that you can keep in a beautifully aquascape tank. But today we're just gonna highlight a few of our favorites. So first up, we have the ever popular betta fish. But this fish is often, unfortunately, mistreated and placed in a tank that's far too small, like a bowl. So maybe you discovered the aquascaping hobby because you wanted to upgrade your betta bowl into a beautiful aquarium. When keeping a betta fish, we recommend a minimum of 5 gallons, but a betta will absolutely thrive in an aquarium that is 10+ gallons. It's also important to note that bettas need lots of hiding places and spaces where they can rest. So this could be multiple large leaf aquatic plants and/or crevices and tunnels that you can create with hardscape. So if you aquascape something specifically for a betta, you have to understand that with their distinctive personalities, just like humans, they come in a variety of different aggression levels. But generally speaking, bettas are quite aggressive to other tank mates. So we recommend that if you're going to go with a beautiful betta, to just do a single betta in a tank. While male bettas can be quite aggressive, female bettas tend to do very well together in a female-only shoal called the betta sorority. So you can actually keep a shoal of 5 to 10 female bettas and they should do very well together. Just keep an eye on their behavior and make any modifications as necessary. And next up we have the oh so popular guppy fish. And guppies are so popular in this hobby because they are live breeders, which means they give birth to live fish. And this is super cool because it's incredibly easy to breed guppies and have a community of adult and juvenile guppies in your tank. And just like with betta fish and shrimp, they come in a variety of different colors with different fin types. And the other cool thing about guppies is that they're incredibly peaceful, so they do well with other community fish, some of which we're about to talk about. Next up, we have the neon tetra, and this fish species is super popular because #1, they school very tightly, #2, they're super peaceful, and #3, they display beautiful coloration with this luster that looks incredible under high quality aquarium lighting. So you really want to get a bare minimum of 6, but if you can get more, you'll see really nice schooling and really cool behavior from them. And next up we have Corydoras fish, also known as Cory catfish. And these are an excellent addition to your cleanup crew. They love playing on the sand and sort of filtering for little bits of detritus and algae and microfauna, and they look really cool. Like a lot of the other species we've talked about so far, they come in a variety of different colors and sizes, and they're just super cute, but make sure you keep them away from any sort of aggressive fish. And finally, we have the rice fish, which are one of our absolute favorite at Boost Plant. They display really vibrant coloration when in a nice aquascape under beautiful aquarium lighting, and they just have really cool behavior. They're super peaceful and they're available in a variety of different colors. So go ahead and check out our whole guide on rice fish that's linked down below in the description. And once again, if you're interested in any of these species, you can go ahead and check out boostplant.com. And we carry most of these with a 100% DOA policy. some folks keep snails to help clean up algae and also add to the visual aesthetic of their community tank, but other people view certain species of snails as pests. So it's important to distinguish between which snails are pests and which snails are pets, and understand why what we consider pest snails may actually be an important part of the ecosystem of our tank. The most popular pet snail we carry are the nerite snails, and nerite snails are really successful algae eaters. They sift all through your tank looking for detritus and algae, and they'll make short work of diatoms when you add them to the tank. They can lay unsightly, stubborn white eggs on your hardscape, but one way to potentially bypass is to find their smaller cousin, the horned nerite snails. So horned nerite snails are significantly smaller than the traditional nerite snail. They lay eggs less frequently, and the eggs that they do lay are much smaller and easy to remove. One thing to note about nerite snails in general is that they actually won't mate in your tank. So while they may lay eggs, the eggs will never birth new snails because they actually require brackish conditions to be born. So in a freshwater aquarium that doesn't have any salt, you'll never have new nerite snails. And next up we have the rabbit snail. And if it was possible for a snail to be cute, this is the species that prove it. So rabbit snails have really interesting personality and are quite a bit larger than the nerite snails. So if this is something that interests you, just make sure that you're not keeping it with any aggressive species that could bully it. But if you have a peaceful schooling fish in your tank, the rabbit snail can be a really nice addition. One thing to note about these larger snail types is that they can produce a bit of a bioload, meaning just like with fish, they produce a significant amount of waste. So as you're adding different livestock to your tank, and if you decide to go with something like a rabbit snail, consider the fact that they're also producing waste, and you need to take that into account when designing the size of your tank as well as the size of the filtration. And now let's talk about what are considered pest snails. So pest snails are typically teeny tiny little snails like pond snails or bladder snails that often enter your tank as hitchhikers from plants or hardscape or the water from the fish store. And with the improper conditions in an aquarium, these little snails can multiply very quickly and overtake things. However, if things in your tank are well balanced and there's not an excess of waste or nutrients, having a few bladder or pond snails are only going to improve the ecosystem. After all, these teeny tiny little critters can get in the tiny little spots that your larger algae eaters can't. So they'll constantly be on the search for detritus and different sorts of waste, and just like earthworms, they're an important part of the community. They help decaying matter be removed from the system. Additionally, if you're extra worried about hitchhiking snails arriving on your potted plants that aren't grown in the tissue culture form, a quick bleach dip can help get rid of any sort of pests. So do your research, because depending on the hardiness and the sensitivity of the plant, you're gonna bleach dip for a different amount of time. But a good benchmark is that for your sensitive plants, you'll bleach dip for around 90 seconds. And for your hardier plants, you can bleach dip for up to about 150 seconds or so. You'll prepare 2 containers, one with a 1 to 20 bleach water mix, and a second one with water and dechlorinator. You'll bleach dip the plant, make sure that any sort of snails or pests are sort of killed off, and then you'll soak the plant in the dechlorinated water. Before you do any of this, just give the plant a quick rinse under the sink to remove any sort of debris and easily removable hitchhikers. Whenever possible, quarantining new inhabitants can really help prevent disease from taking over your tank. So we recommend setting up a separate 5 or 10 gallon tank that you can sort of keep filtered at all times, maybe have some plants in there, and anytime you go to the fish store or you order new livestock from boostplant.com, we recommend quarantining them in that tank anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks before adding them to your aquascape. There are certain pests and parasites like Hydra and Planaria that can be really lethal and problematic in a tank. So if you have a currently existing community of fish, shrimp, and/or snails, by quarantining any new inhabitants, you can sort of observe them for a few weeks, make sure there's no disease, and then if there is some sort of a disease or a pest, you can treat it appropriately, make sure it's gone, and once it's gone, then you can add them to your community tank. So we recommend quarantining new inhabitants in a separate tank anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, but you can go longer if you're treating a disease. So the variety of fish, shrimp, and snails we've talked about today are really just the tip of the iceberg. Feel free to head over to boostplant.com and read up on some of the other species that we recommend and carry. But I wanted to take this opportunity to sort of summarize a few very important notes when it comes to keeping any sort of species. So one thing to be cognizant of is that many fish are jumpers. So in the aquascaping hobby, it's very common for us to keep rimless, lidless tanks. And if you're keeping a species that jumps, this can be problematic. So first of all, do your research and understand the likelihood of your fish jumping. But know that any species, whether they're likely to jump or not, can jump, and they will jump more likely if they're stressed. So be aware of where your tank is in your house, and if you're worried about your fish jumping, lower the water level several inches. This will help prevent incidents like that from occurring, but you can also check out a lid for your aquarium. We carry UNS lids for the UNS tanks on boostplant.com. Those will be linked down below in the description. So just find the appropriate lid for your size tank. It's very important not to overstock your tank. So it can be very tempting to get a million different species to make your tank look lively, but you're going to be limited based on the size of your tank as well as the size of the filtration. So do your research and find examples of fish keepers and hobbyists that you admire and see if you can replicate what they do, because honestly, we just can't give you a blanket statement of the amount of fish you can keep per gallon. That's gonna really depend on the amount of beneficial bacteria that your filter can house, as well as the amount of plants that are in your tank. So it varies quite a bit depending on your aquascape. But feel free to head over to boostplant.com and check out some of our setups for examples of community tanks that are really thriving and provide happy, healthy environments for the fish. It's also important to note that some species really appreciate hiding places in coverage and shadows. So know what you're gonna keep and know how much coverage you need to provide for them to be happy. Some species like guppies are totally cool being out in the open under the bright aquarium lighting, but then other species like Corydoras, they really appreciate some sand to sort of graze on, as well as hiding places because they're a little bit more shy. So do your research and find species that suit your aquascape, and if there's something very specific you know you wanna keep, go ahead and aquascape your tank tailored towards that specific species. It's really vital that you know what water parameters the species you want to keep require. So we noted earlier that Caridina shrimp are a little bit difficult to keep because they require very soft water, but there are also fish that have specific requirements. For example, betta fish and discus fish require fairly warm temperatures, so it's absolutely vital that you keep those species with a heater. Now, most of the fish we keep in the aquarium hobby are tropical fish, so they're gonna do best at room temperature, as well as temperatures that range from 70 degrees all the way up to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. But do your research and find the optimal conditions for your inhabitants, and just know how cold or how warm your own living space will get and choose inhabitants based on that. But if you find that your living space is very cold and you want to keep a warmer species, you're absolutely gonna need a heater. And finally, to reiterate, know what tank mates are going to work for the species you want to keep. So we know that when you're first getting into this hobby, it can be really exciting to go to the fish store because you see such a variety of beautiful species that you may want to keep. But do your research before getting ready to shop. We have a ton of articles on boostplant.com that are going to steer you in the right direction. And once again, feel free to look at some of our builds for examples of compatible species. So that's all the time we have for today, but do us a favor and let us know down below in the comment what your absolute favorite beginner-friendly species to keep in this hobby is. There's so many to choose from and we love hearing from you. So thank you so much for watching. As always, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. This has been Logan with Team Boost Plant, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.